India is in the house. Fantastic. It's a very, very international audience. All right, I suggest we'll start and I can walk you through all the options you have available in this webinar and what we're about to do. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I feel super honored to be here and to welcome you and then to hand over to our knowledgeable experts in the region. My name is Christine Sechin. I manage the EMEA team in GitLab in terms of marketing, and I will be your hopefully very smiley and very fun host today. If you have any questions, if you have any issues in terms of Zoom capabilities, feel free to use the Q&A function if your chat should be disabled, or chat me directly by utilizing the selection of the names in the chat option. First of all, we're super excited to be here. The team here, Ahmed and Gautam, will be presenting today on the topic supercharging your DevSecOps capabilities with GitLab. Why? Because we believe this region has a huge potential, and I think partnering with GitLab will give you this competitive edge when it comes to DevSecOps environments. The presentation will be recorded and you will receive the deck at the end of the session. If you haven't received it, please reach out to us directly, LinkedIn or via email. We'll be happy to answer any questions. And then just to kick off with a little bit of a funny question for you all again to fire up the chat. If you had an option, what DevOps superpower would you like to have? I'm excited to read your answers. Thank you so much. Again, if you have any questions, contact me directly in chat or via Q&A, and I'll hand over to Ahmed.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christine. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ahmed Amara. I am sales manager for Saudi Arabia, covering the entire region. And I am so excited today that we will present our first webinar in Saudi Arabia. To be honest, I can see a lot of a change now in Saudi Arabia within technology, within AI, within the DevSecOps terminology here. And I am happy to present the complete DevSecOps in the world. So I joined GitLab less than a year for now. In the past, I worked with Oracle for more than 5.5 years. And after that, I covered also MicroStrategy for 3 years. All my entire life, I cover Saudi Arabia region. So I have a lot of customers. I have a lot of friends also. We are here to add value to our customer and partner. I will not take too much from your time. I will leave the floor to Gautam to start engaging with you. If you have any questions, I will keep my contacts here in the chat, and you also can reach out to me via LinkedIn. Thank you so much. Gautam, over to you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Christine. Again, as Christine said, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. I'm happy that we have an international audience. As Ahmed said, we've focused on the Meta region, which is where we are based, but more than happy to share our knowledge with whoever is available, whoever could join us. Just to quickly introduce myself, a few seconds of your time, and then we can jump into what we're planning to present and discuss. My name is Gautam Nagaraj. I'm a solutions architect with GitLab. And prior to joining GitLab, I was part of Palo Alto Networks, covering their application security suite. So you can think of it as the sec part alone for the DevSecOps. And prior to that, I was also with Red Hat, covering operations. And I have also worked similar to yourself, managing a team of dev, ops, and support personnel for a specific program for over a period of 3 years. So hoping today to share my knowledge of what we've, what is possible within a complete DevSecOps story. So let's kick things off. The agenda is a quick overview of the challenges that are there within the software development lifecycle process. That will follow up with what exactly is GitLab and what GitLab's vision in terms of what we want to do. We will segue into a few topics that we believe are pretty interesting and are achieving more and more maturity. One is the security aspect of doing DevOps, which is the second part. And how are we seeing the usage of AI in terms of helping to build applications? We'll finally close that off with a quick demo just to give some sort of insight. And obviously, more than welcome to ask any questions that you might have using the Q&A. Just to give a heads up, this is one of many webinars that we're planning. And we love to hear your feedback at the end in terms of what we can do better and what would you be more interested in moving forward. So what is it that any organization is trying to achieve with their software development lifecycle? We at GitLab, we've talked to hundreds, thousands of organizations that are day in, day out trying to achieve their goals, their business goals. And the way that you drive value is by building secure applications that can go to market as quickly as possible. And that means, if we were to drive this down into basic capabilities or basic, features or the use cases that you'd want, that is to make your developers more productive, make them more effective also within their productivity, and ensure that you can deliver secure software supply chain. In addition to that, what we see is a very good booster is the fact that how can you safely adopt AI in terms of achieving this? So, if I was to summarize all of this, it's basically accelerating cycle times and deliver customer value as quickly as possible so that whoever or whatever application you're building, how can they add value to your customers? But the overarching problem that we see is that most environments look like this. It's a bunch of disjointed tools. There is a lot of duplication of capabilities across the organization. Certainly, I've read that, organizations or tools sometimes follow the organizational methodology. And that means that if you have a siloed organization, you would have siloed tools. And the biggest problem that happens then when teams are trying to collaborate is that, it's a mess. It's a terrible developer experience. You're forced to context switch from one tool to another to try and figure out what is happening. And if you try to scale up, it just makes the problem bigger. And so it leads to costly tool chain sprawl, So there must be a better way to do this, right? And we at GitLab, according to what we've seen in the industry and what we've talked to from our customers, what we believe the solution to be is a comprehensive platform. Something that brings the entire software development lifecycle into a single platform, a single application. With that, you basically have a value stream driven approach. What does that mean? If I was to break down in a high level what a software development lifecycle looks like, you have your planning. So you are either building features for your applications or trying to fix bugs that have been identified. You hand over those issues or tickets to your developers who create the code that will solve that issue. And then if you're following the DevOps methodology, DevSecOps methodology, you basically have the integration and the pipelines that run to validate that code that has been built by your developers, whether that's, having some sort of tests or some sort of security scans running on them. And then finally deploy those to your environments so that you can operate them. All of this needs to be built around the wrapper of security and governance so that you have an understanding of where you stand from a security perspective, from a vulnerability perspective, and that you're able to basically ensure governance in an enterprise manner. And the final part of any loop is the monitoring and improvement, being able to understand where you are, what you're doing, and how you can do it better. Having all of this underneath a single data store, meaning that all the data from these different branches or different capabilities available in a single location, means that you have the information to make data-driven decisions. You know where within your software development lifecycle are you going fast and where are you bottlenecked, and what you need to do next so that you can improve your overall process. Something I think everyone's read a book called the Phoenix organization book, they would know exactly what I'm talking about. And finally, if we have all of this information underneath one platform and are able to power it with AI, how much faster can we go? So, that was on a high level what the solution looks like, what we envision the solution to be. If you want to make it more concrete, let's look at a typical workflow. As I said, let's say that, you're running a certain application, web application. There is a certain feature that's required. You go ahead and break those features down into separate releases and separate standalone user stories that need to be created. You hand those user stories to each to a developer. The developer basically starts a branch, or what we call a merge request, pushes or creates the code that he needs to have so that we can go ahead and basically create whatever is required, commit that code, which breaks or starts off an automated process of testing and security scanning. We get those results, and with those results, we can iterate within the team.
Gutam, apologize, but we have questions here. If you allow to take some questions during the session, if this is okay.
No, I think we would, Ahmed, let's ask the questions in the Q&A, unless, of course, there's some problem in the webinar in terms of connectivity. Please let us know. Okay. So that way we can complete it, and then we can ask the questions as soon as we're done with the presentation, if that's all right.
So if you have any questions, please just text in the chat box, okay? And I will give you the time to ask these questions. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So as I said, let's run those tests and scans. Let's have the different teams collaborate together in the same area so that we can iterate and we can reach to a location where the developer has built the code that they want and the rest of the stakeholders are happy with it. Review the app, get the right approvals, and then go ahead and merge, what we call as merge into our main line, which basically triggers a release to your production environment. Now, imagine the fact that if you're able to do all of these different steps, which are part of the software development lifecycle, as part of the one single application, instead of having to go to multiple different applications so that you can basically achieve this. The amount of ease at which you can scale and collaborate increases dramatically. So that is, you can say, the vision in terms of how we want to make it more productive for everyone, not only developers, operations, security, project managers, management, so that they can actually look and understand what is happening. So let's say that now you have the spaceship that goes, as you say, is ready to go into space. What's the next part of it? And that's something that we really need to consider, which is the security part. Generally, and this is from my personal experience, when you have a software development lifecycle, you need, and you will know from experience, that the fastest you can go is actually dependent on the bottleneck that you might have. And this is where we know I want to identify one aspect of it. Within the last few years, we've been doing a lot of improvements in terms of our DevOps processes, where we have developers and operations really working hand in hand, automating the overall process. But when you're within an enterprise, you really need to consider security. And if security is not keeping pace with the improvements that are happening within the rest of the software development, what you have is basically an accident. Either you can go really fast and maybe have a crash, or regardless of whether you have an F1 engine, you are automatically throttled to the road speed, the legal road speed, because you have no other option. So how do we overcome this, right? So that's the main thing that we need to think about. Well, we at GitLab, we started off as being part of that DevOps process, but we really quickly understood that our customers are asking for key capabilities that will help them secure that process. So as part of that overall evolution of GitLab, we've actually incorporated a lot of the different security requirements that our customers are asking for, whether that be the standard ones that we always hear about, static analysis of code, or dynamic analysis of code, whether it's being able to secure your APIs or scan for your containers to understand what vulnerabilities you have, or to identify whether we are keeping our username and passwords in plain text within our code, right? So that is something that GitLab has been working on and has improved ourselves so that we basically give these capabilities out of the box. But is it just enough to have that capability? It's great that you have the list of tools. They give you the output. They give you quite a few results, but how do you action on those, right? That's the next step that we need to think about. And that is where, by tying everything together as a platform, by having our security tooling natively integrated within our pipeline process, we are, as part of any CI run, as part of any pipeline run, able to identify any degradation of code quality, any security vulnerabilities that might have come across, any secrets that might be exposed, any new licenses that you need to be aware of from a governance or security perspective, or a compliance perspective, be able to integrate all of those within the DevOps process in terms of committing code. And how does that help? Imagine the difference between these two different scenarios. The first scenario is how we always run. I go as a developer, I type in some code, and basically have someone else from a different team come over, I don't know, whenever it is, because after the CI runs, the security of findings are within another tool underneath someone else's purview, and then come and tell me, oh, there's a challenge, you need to go and fix something. It feels like, when you're running a race and you have a false start after you've finished the race. That's one part of it. Or the second part, which is you go ahead and create some code, submit it. While you're working on that code, you don't get stopped, but you get informed immediately of challenges that you might be having or introducing within your code. And so that way, it's an iterative process. Basically, it becomes part of that DevOps or part of that agile process where you are actively creating code while getting feedback and fixing any issues that you might have introduced. It just becomes a huge difference in terms of the friction and the willingness for both developers and security to work together. You don't feel that wall anymore. And finally, yes, we are able to identify new security vulnerabilities. We're able to present them to developers and security, but we're also able to enforce governance and policies. That's, I believe, the trifecta that basically helps it. So that, as a security team, and this is my personal experience, I've always seen that the ratio between security and developers internationally is known to be about 20-1. So meaning for every 20 developers, you can only have a security personnel who can look at AppSec. And when I say security, I'm talking about application security. And I've certain organizations, when they are very, very big, like the food delivery apps, or some real estate or some fintech apps, I've sometimes seen those be 100-1. Imagine being that single person that has to go across and work with 100 different devs. It just is a nonstop influx of things that you need to do, and how are you supposed to manage that? That's where the capability of enforcing policy, so that if a team is not affecting my security vulnerability or security stance, I don't need to come in and give my explicit approval. It is implicitly, it's implied that you have my approval as long as you are not reducing my security standpoint. That is an amazing thing to have. And that allows you to come in as a security person and give value wherever you want. It also allows for a developer not to be blocked, so that he can focus on what he needs to do and only get involved with security as and when required. So that's what we actually see here. This is an example where we have streamlined the approval process. You only require approval from certain people if your coverage or your code quality decreases, or otherwise, you as a developer are free to go ahead and do those changes that you want, free to go ahead and create value for your organization. The final thing that I would say is, and what we always need is from a top level perspective, governance and reporting. How are we doing? Are we better off? How many vulnerabilities are we having? Are we getting better and better as we go by each month? So that is something that, that is a key capability that helps us know how much investment as an organization do we need to do within a certain area, right? So to tie it in, basically, as part of that CI/CD process, having a single platform that also includes security helps to identify vulnerable software, helps to mitigate the risks that can happen, helps ensure that you're compliant. If you're within a heavy compliance industry, whether that's fintech, whether that's governance, whether that's retail, and having a common language across the entire software development lifecycle, so that as a team, we have no blind spots. That is something that I believe any organization would like to achieve. It's always been that hesitation and that friction between different teams because of the lack of the common language. And I think that having that, it goes a great way in terms of delivering software, but also security. For the last part, and this is tied to the pipeline or the overall process that I showcased. If you remember the process of planning, building, testing, releasing, you'd have even noticed that the amount of time that actually any developer spends building code, and this is something that we as GitLab have been surveying, is actually just only 21% of their time. The majority of their time, in fact, is spent on other tasks, whether that be improving the existing code or reviewing them, doing maintenance, creating unit tests and testing, and making sure to secure those code. With the advent of AI, which has happened really in the last, let's say, which has jumpstarted or kickstarted in the last 2 years, there's already been a lot of focus on how we can code better. That's great. We also encourage that. But we have to remember that as a developer, do you want to only boost that 21% of your time, or is it the entire 100%? And I'm sure most organizations and most users will say, yeah, I want everything to be, faster with AI. And that's true, you can do that. But what we've seen a lot of organizations do, and a lot of our customers do sometimes, is basically use different tools for different capabilities and having to use AI within each tool. That just, you're going to have a single AI tool, you're going to have 5, 6 different AI tools. And the data is not necessarily shared between these tools. And B, the amount of maintenance and integration that's required to make all of it work is going to be a nightmare. So what do we as GitLab propose is to have that same platform powered end-to-end with AI. How would that look like? Obviously, just to give some insight, we at GitLab, we've named our AI assistant as GitLab Duo. And we have focused on how to build better code faster. With that, we've actually added a lot of capabilities within that software development lifecycle. I will be covering these within the demo that we have as part of our presentations this evening. But if I was to quickly run out through it, first one is obviously to suggest some code. Imagine you're trying to write new code. It would be so much easier if you had someone as a peer buddy who helps to give suggestions, to work jointly, and to brainstorm so that you can write code for. It could also be that you're a new developer who's joined an organization. You've been handed a certain project. It might be that the knowledge was tribal. I know we all love to say that, put in comments, but honestly, from my experience, 80 to 90% of all knowledge is tribal, meaning that it's with a certain developer who might have left. And having to understand the code that is existing within a repository can take a lot of time. So having someone explain that to you just makes it infinitely easier. It also helps to suggest who can review your code changes by looking at maybe who's the original person who submitted it, or who is a relevant person that actually works on the repositories. So if you're working within a broader team and trying to understand who do I need to go and tag, that's something that AI can help with. Another part of it, which I know is something that no one likes generally, is to have to build tests for the code that you've written. Imagine having the skeleton or the use cases built out for you so that you as a developer are just reviewing those test cases, suggesting additional test cases, and sort of like fine-tuning that as opposed to starting from scratch. It just decreases that barrier to get these sort of different tasks done. And the final part that we do within the code generation component is basically root cause analysis. Imagine that you are having something failing. It's a very common occurrence. We've had that happen. And it would be so much easier if we had someone tell us where they think the issue is so that we can really double click and focus on that area as opposed to having to troubleshoot through a bunch of logs. And we all know when we have logs that are written in code, how interesting that can be, right? So that is, I would say, in terms of where we focus on the code, in terms of our AI solution. But is that all we do? No. If you look at it, if you remember as what I talked about from our earlier discussion on the end-to-end process, we have actually embedded our AI capabilities across the entire software development lifecycle. So whether that's helping in planning what features you want to build, building those features, testing them out, identifying security vulnerabilities, but more importantly, explaining what those vulnerabilities are and suggesting fixes. And finally, having a dashboard that shows you how well are your teams adopting AI and whether it's making sense for you as an organization. Across the entire software development lifecycle, we've also added our chatbot, GitLab Duo Chat, where where it has the context of GitLab as an application itself, B, design practices that are used by the industry, and C, your code repositories, so that it can understand how best to serve you. Whenever we have this discussion of AI, though, we have to be cognizant about how we operate and what are the concerns that people might have around AI. And that's where, when we did a survey, we see that, while everyone loves to adopt AI, they're very apprehensive about it, specifically around the intellectual property, about where their code is going, who's going to be able to use it. And so that's where we as GitLab have taken that decision not to use your code as training data. We, in fact, have agreements where we do not train our models on private data, such as yourself. We also, as GitLab, identify that not necessarily a single LLM is the best, best solution for each and every use case. We've actually identified that we can use a plethora of LLMs depending on those use cases, so as to give you the highest or the best answer for your use case. So that is one part of how we do it. But we do understand our customers might have even further apprehensions, especially depending on how compliant they need to be to data residency. So as part of that, GitLab has been working towards and has released the option of bringing your own self-hosted LLMs. So that would mean that as a customer, you would be able to enjoy the AI use cases while not having your data even go outside of your organization. I think that is certainly a game changer, especially within the regions of the Middle East, Turkey, and Africa, where we operate, where we understand the frameworks that the governments have. And it's certainly something that I believe that our customers are interested in. Having said that, what I want to talk about is more also, other than our customers, is our analyst reports. This is something that we're really, really proud of. This is the Gartner report for 2024, the Magic Quadrant for DevOps Platforms. And it's 2 years in a row. So we had this out in 2023 and in 2024. And we as GitLab are recognized as a leader. You can even see that we're pretty much as much up and to the right as we can be. So this is something that shows validation in our decision, in our methodology, and having the industry validate us. In addition to this, we've also had a Gartner report that's just come out a few weeks ago that is around AI code assistance. This is the first one. And we're very happy to have GitLab also recognized as a leader here. We're executing well against our current vision. And we are well positioned for tomorrow, as per Gartner. So that should give you, as users, if you want to try out GitLab, the confidence that we've been tested and we have been recognized as someone that is working in the right direction within the industry. So with this, that brings us to the end of our presentation. We have kept it short so that we can answer your questions, as well as segue to our demo. What I'll do right now is open the stage up for the questions that were asked, so that we can answer them, and then moving forward, we can basically showcase our demo. So Christine, Ahmed, let's go through those.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Do you want to take one by one, and some of the discussions will come out of that, I'm sure. But Ali,
100%.
first. Yeah, I kept the guests motivated to add difficult questions for you.
I'm very happy with that first question itself. It sounds like it's going to be an interesting discussion. So I'll read out the question, and then we can also give the answer. And if Ali wants, we can even bring him on. Maybe we want to have a further discussion. So the first question is, why is GitLab SaaS so fixated on AWS so much? In a world where multi-cloud is no longer like brain surgery, why don't we consider making GitLab SaaS available on other cloud environments? So let me answer that, Ali. So the first point, so GitLab SaaS, just to give our attendees some insight, GitLab actually started as a self-hosted solution. That means we were initially just installed within customer data centers. That was our vision. But with time, we moved to provide a SaaS service, which is basically GitLab.com, where you can enjoy those same services, same use cases, but without having to manage the underlying infrastructure. Just to give Ali some context, in fact, our GitLab.com is operated on Google Cloud and not AWS. But I believe what Ali is talking about is another offering that we have as it's called GitLab Dedicated. And so just to give everyone some context, we have our self-managed, meaning that you as an organization or as a hobbyist or enthusiast install GitLab and run it yourself. Or you go to gitlab.com where we manage the underlying infrastructure and you get to enjoy the service as a user. Or finally, GitLab Dedicated, which was initially available on AWS only, where it is a single tenant SaaS. We as GitLab manage the underlying infrastructure. You get to use the services as it was .com, but you are the only person that is actually on that overall environment. Obviously, this is a very tailored experience, and it's normally reserved for enterprises that have a big number of developers, because that is where it makes sense. That was initially available only on AWS, but we have also made it available on Google Cloud. So wherever you have an AWS cloud instance or a Google Cloud instance, that is something that we can run. So to answer your question, Ali, we do support it. And even if there's something that we don't support, which is like as a SaaS, which is, you can say Oracle Cloud, OCI, or Microsoft Azure, it's even possible to run GitLab self-managed within your own cloud environment. So that means you are running it in the cloud. You are responsible for the underlying infrastructure, the VMs, the cloud native Kubernetes infrastructure, if you're going for that, but you have it available on the cloud environment. I hope this answers your question. More than happy to respond if you have any follow-up. I'm not sure, Christine, how do we handle whether, do we have...
Yeah, I would say if someone needs a follow-up question, just raise a hand and we'll unmute you if you want to come on camera. I know some people may be shy, but for now, let's move to the next question. And we've got quite a few, so I'm a bit anxious of getting through them. You can do your demo.
I completely understand. What we'll do is let's keep this till about 45, and then we can leave the last 15 minutes for the demo. So Mahmoud is the next question. Does GitLab not work with container apps, and what tools do I need to integrate GitLab with the complete CI/CD? So very happy you asked that question, Mahmoud. I will actually go ahead and let you know that we as GitLab do work across the entire application stack, whether that is VMs or containers. In fact, we as GitLab can be installed on containers, can be installed on VMs. So if you're talking about installation, if you're talking about where do we deploy to, we can deploy to any cloud environment, to any VM environment, to any Kubernetes container-based environment. So that means that you actually have the multi-cloud experience, you have the freedom of choice, and what tools do you need, right? So that is exactly where we come in. We integrate with pretty much the majority of tools. The majority of tools also understand that we are open source and that they can integrate with us as well. So we do have plugins that come in from other tools if they want it. If not, we are an open API. We have the access to the REST API, and that means that any integration that's required can be built. So to quickly, or to summarize your question, what tools do you need? We as GitLab provide you the planning, the creation, the IDEs, the source code management, the CI tools, the CD tools, the security tools. Now, if you were looking for something outside of this, that will obviously help augment your software development lifecycle, you're more than happy to bring that in. We are never going to say that we do not work with someone. We have an open mentality, open mindset. We're an open company, and we're happy to work in terms of integrating with anything that's there.
Thanks, Gusam. The next questions from Dr. Mohammed Al-Husseini. Do we have integration with Jira?
It's a very common question that we get all the time. Quick answer, yes. In fact, the integration with Jira is such a common request that we have a two-way integration with Jira. That means that as if you are an organization that's using Jira today for your planning, you can have all your planning done in Jira and then assign tickets to developers who will kick off the creation of the merge request and the pushing of code, but have that information also visible inside Jira. So it's a two-way. We are able to see tickets in Jira and start working on them as developers, and PMs and project managers can see the action or the work that's been done in the software development cycle within Jira. So it's a very common integration, something that we support, and we're very happy to continue working forward because it's a very, very common solution in the market.
Thanks, Gusam. Next one from Mohammed Silwidi. Is the GitLab AI setup on cloud or can be installed on-premise?
So to answer your question, Mahmoud, as I said over here, we do understand that AI currently is primarily on cloud. Why is that? Because of these heavy LLMs that need to be built and hosted. And so that is why currently we started off also with cloud, but we already have initiatives running. We actually have those capabilities available for customers to try and enjoy, where you can have the LLM on-prem. Obviously, we as GitLab have a list of supported LLMs. You're more than welcome to use any of those and connect your GitLab instance to that LLM so that you can do the code generation, code completion, having the chat running within your own premise. So that is the answer. The quick answer is both our options are available. We are working on maturing our self-hosted LLM, and we're getting better and better every day.
Next questions. Do we have cloud in Saudi Arabia, SaaS offering in Saudi Arabia?
So today, we currently obviously support AWS and GCP. GCP is as a SaaS. GCP is available in country within Saudi Arabia, but it is not as the .com, GitLab.com. It is as the dedicated offering, which obviously is reserved more for enterprises that have 500 and more developers. So if you as a customer are having 500 or more developers and interested in having that running within Saudi Arabia on a cloud as a SaaS, more than happy to have you reach out to us and we will discuss it and we can move it forward. If you are running a cloud environment and would like to run it in Saudi Arabia on the cloud environment, you can do that as a self-managed, where you host the infrastructure and you run it, but obviously it's running within your cloud environment.
Thanks, Gautam. Next one from Ashraf Parum. How do you comply with Saudi data residency regulations for the fintech, for example? It's a very good question, by the way, Ashraf, because we had this request from our existing customer. We are working with most of the banks here in Saudi Arabia, and we got this request recently. I will leave Gautam to answer this.
That is actually what I just stated as well, Ahmed. In this instance, for the time being, what we are doing is having our customers basically set up with their own instance of GitLab that's running within their cloud environments that are managed by them, that are underneath their control and within the region of Saudi Arabia, and migrating any data that might have been outside to within these instances. So, and that data could have been in any hosted solution for CI/CD and DevOps. We support migrating from all of those to GitLab, whether it's GitLab itself or any other solution. So this is the way that we're working. We're setting up environments within Saudi Arabia, within their cloud environments, and migrating data over for these customers that are within the fintech space.
Thanks, Gautam. To be honest, we have still many other questions. Okay, we will reach out to you individually to answer these questions, but in terms of time, if we can go ahead with the demo, Gautam.
100%. Thank you very much, guys. Just one last thing I will leave you with, or we'll leave this here and then we could come back to it. So let's kick off things. And how do we kick off things? So GitLab, right? obviously have a very easy, intuitive user interface. This is the standard sort of flow that anyone can expect. I am using a demo environment where I have things set up. I might have different groups, subgroups, and projects. I can show you a listing of the projects that I have here. Mobile application, maybe a corporation that has their different teams coming under different folders, or some test projects. The project that I am going to be showcasing is something called Node.js demo. I'm just going to use that. And I will be showcasing the flow that I showed earlier, which is how do we go from planning till deployment within one single solution. So let's kick things off. What I have here is a very simple repository. I will not need to jump into it, but I have a single file called app.js, which just says hello. It is containerized, and that's why there's a file in there. And as I told you, GitLab can operate end to end, meaning from the start till the end. So let me start with the end. Let's see what that environment is. And that's why I have the environments open. So this is within that same project. I am basically going to see, hey, can you show me my environment? And in this sense, to answer someone else's question, do we support Kubernetes? This is a Kubernetes-based environment. I have the production environment. I can either click open, which will basically showcase to me this environment. And I do have it here already. And you can see, it's as I told you, very simple application. Just says, hello, welcome to Express. And so how do we kick things off? Let's start with what we need to do. And so we, as a product owner's hat, let's put on the hat as a product owner. I've been told that we at GitLab, we like the color orange. You can see a lot of it is based on it. So we've actually have a ticket created by the product owner assigned to the PMs saying, can we please change this color? And we have a discussion or a description of it. Now, you can expect this to be like any other planning tool, whether that's Jira, Trello, etc., how you can do things. We can upload sort of, documentation or Figma or, mockups. We can have different labels plugged on it. We can have different weights plugged on it. We can assign it to certain teams. We can do changes. We can log our time. And finally, at the end of it, we tag a specific developer to do the job, right? Now, what will happen when I wear my hat as a developer? This is something that we basically call as a merge request or a pull request. Anyone who's not from the GitLab world, right? You can say, go ahead and create a merge request. What does that do? You basically create a branch where you can start working on the changes that you need to achieve that overall ticket or that user story. Let's go and think about how we're going to do those changes. We would need an IDE. So obviously, as GitLab, we support the standard IDs that are available across the world. It's covered 95, 99% of the IDs that are used. But let's say that you're a developer who just started off in the organization and you've been assigned this task and you still don't have your IDE set up. Well, we're in luck. We as GitLab offer a web IDE, which basically runs within the web browser and is natively connected to your repository and all the tooling that you'll need. It has a very common theme that is used around the world. And so you can go ahead and do those changes that you need. Now, in this example, I've basically gone and changed a single page to add that color, orange. And then what's the next step I would do? I would commit that code. That's what we can see. And that's what we can track within our merge request. Someone has done a change. You can see the change. You can see who did the commit and when. So you can see that I've done a change about 3 days ago. And the best part of it is, this is the source code management. Normally, we have a process that's been built up as part of how we achieve DevOps, which is commit often and run your tests at each commit. So we have the trigger that every time a commit is run, go ahead and run a pipeline that validates the change I've done and the results of those changes. So let's go and see what has actually happened, right? As part of that pipeline. I've done that change, and that's basically triggered off a series of steps within GitLab whether that's building the source code and the container image, testing using our native security analyzers and scanners, either the code quality, since it's a container image, with the actual vulnerabilities within those container image layers. If you're using open source code, which 90%, 95% of actual code is, looking at what is that.
I think the connection has failed. I think Gotham is a little...
Which is basically look for those vulnerabilities like SQL injection, and it's just, I'll just have a stop. It told me my internet is unstable. Can you guys hear me properly?
Yeah, you just froze for a bit.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, yeah. So as I was saying, starting code analysis, which is basically looking for those common vulnerabilities, SQL injections, cross-site scripting, running any unit tests, and then dynamic code testing as well. Imagine having all of those tools natively integrated so that what your developers have to do is just build code. Everything else is taken care of. That's one advantage of having all of that run. You will obviously get the information that is coming out from those tools also integrated, so you can see those. But the best part about it is having everything available in one location. So yes, I've done a change. I've run a pipeline job, which basically goes through that steps, but I also see the results within my change. So I can see that, as part of my change, I've actually added some extra packages that bring in new licenses. I've seen whether my code quality is improving or decreasing, which shows that it's decreasing here. I can also see whether I have any critical, high, or other vulnerabilities. So that means I know my security standing as well. Having all of this in one location just makes it so much easier as a developer, as a security team, because you know what change triggered, what feature triggered what change, which triggered what vulnerabilities to appear or what changes to happen that you need to be looking at. That's one part of it. Another part of it that, this is something I'm really proud of that we have is something called the review app, where we as a team are able to actually see what is the change I did on the application. And you can see it actually here. So I have my production environment, but I also have a mini development environment that runs for each and every merge request. That means that I am not overlapping or impacting anyone else, and I can actually understand the change, whether that is the right thing that I had to do as well. We also use this as part of our dynamic code testing, our performance testing. So it's really, a fully integrated aspect of what we do. And finally, once we've actually acknowledged, fixed everything, we could even merge and compile and deploy to our production environment so that we can have that change seen live. So that is, I would say, sort of a comprehensive understanding of what we do. Obviously, in the time we have, we're not going to really deep dive into all of these different components. But what I will do, just to showcase, is have a run on our AI capabilities, just to give a taste of exactly what we do and how we do it. And the best part of it is we can actually do this live without having to get any extra tools. We have our own IDE that we support. We do also support any other IDEs that generally developers use, which is Studio Code, IntelliJ products, NeoVim products, and let's see that in live. So as I said, I have a Node.js as an application. I'm not going to touch that for now. I'm going to go ahead and create something new, and just to showcase how powerful our AI is. But let's create something in Python. So I'm going to name it as main.py, creating a new file. And let's ask it to create a tic-tac-toe game with UI components. You can see the Tanuki, which is our fox, our logo running, goes to our LLM, and then comes back with a solution that basically is how you would run AI, the same what you call a tic-tac-toe game. This is great for, the code suggestions, right? But let's say that, I'm happy with this, it works, but maybe can I improve this, right? So how would I do that? So that's where we can actually even open up our chat and ask our chat, hey, can you look at the selected code I have built? Obviously, I'm not this in the, my AI partner built it for me, but I have built and suggest performance enhancements. I'm basically, brainstorming with my AI partner on how I can improve certain things. It goes, understands the code, and comes back stating what it could possibly do to improve it. There we go. So we actually have quite a few comprehensive response. It's saying it's a simple implementation, but there are a few things that you can do. You can actually build a set for faster winner checking. So that means that, when we check in the winner, we actually have some logic, but we could actually make it even better. You could use a Lambda function. So I just make it even more better, the thing like serverless to reduce the function creation overhead. And even other aspects which are more on the business logic and more efficient way to check for a tie. So just imagine having someone next to you suggesting these things that can possibly make improvements. It's not that you have to necessarily accept it, but you actually have a second set of eyes looking over it. That is a powerful, capability that helps you build faster. Okay, I've built all this code. I'm very happy with it. But there's also another point that we need to think of, which is the unit tests. If you remember, I said that we help building unit tests. How easy is it? As easy as clicking a button. I'm going to go ahead and say, can you go and generate some unit tests for me? It understands the code, it understands the logic, it understands the technology, and it comes back to you with a response, which is what are those use cases that you're testing and how to use those. So here it tells you, I'm using the unit test framework. I've built the tests. So this is pretty much another file that you can use. And it actually tells me what are the tests covering. The initial state of the game, all the way till the game over scenarios. And how would I actually be able to go ahead and implement these, right? This test. This is, a powerful way for someone to get started, so to overcome that apprehension that they might have with regards to, testing. Is that all we do? Not necessarily. We can even ask it questions that are made on, can you refactor this code? I know there's a very, very common theme these days of people going towards Golang. And so let's ask it, can you refactor this code from Python to Golang? So you can think of it as not only building code, but actually used in day 2 operations, which is refactoring it, moving it from one language to another, moving it from one version of, let's say, Java, from Java 6 to Java 11 or 13, a newer version, to use those capabilities that are available within the newer version. And you can here see that I've asked it, it's actually gone ahead and done that. It's given me the code that is in Golang. It also maintains the same functionality, but it tells you what I've done, what it's done as part of the refactoring and how you would actually need to run this game. So it's just makes it so much easier for any developer in terms of, having to, work on their use cases, makes them more productive, makes them scale out without, really bringing in additional overhead for them. So this is, I would say, in the interest of time, a quick taste of what we provide as part of our AI capabilities. There's quite a lot more that I have not covered, and we're more than happy to cover that in a subsequent webinar if that's of interest to everyone here. What I would like to do is basically turn that back to our slide deck and have a call out. Maybe Christine, you would like to, call out what we're doing in GITEX and, have everyone come over.
Yes, thank you so much, Gautam. And again, thanks so much for your presentation. I hope it was super useful for everyone present. There is tons of questions for you to answer. So again, thanks for all of you for attending, being here, asking those questions. We will answer all of them. It might be slightly difficult to address the anonymous attendees because if you haven't left your details, but Ahmed has put his details in the chat, so feel free to reach out to us by phone, by email, but equally we're all here for you on LinkedIn. We'd be happy to answer your questions. And now over to what's next. Really excited to announce that GitLab is presenting or will be present at GITEX Global in Dubai this year for the very first time. I myself will be there, the team will be there, we're really excited. You will find us, we will be there in collaboration with Google, not AWS this time. Again, you see, we're very agnostic, but we will be there on Google's stand in Hall 7. Also, you'll be able to, if you scan the QR code, if you just quickly use your phones to scan the QR code shown here, you'll be able to pre-book meetings with us, dedicated demos. So all the questions and more that you come up maybe after hearing back or thinking more about this presentation today, we will be there to address all of these in person. There will be giveaways, there will be, presentations and also speaking engagement between us and Google to make you, bring it closer why GitLab and Google are working so well together. So tons of things happening there. Equally, there is also a link at the bottom of this slide, which will also take you to all our global events and everything that we're putting out there in terms of workshops, webcasts, and so on. Feel free to browse there. There is tons of information for you to learn and educate yourself. And equally, as we said at the beginning, there will be a recording sent out to you if you shared your details with us. We will be able to share the presentation with you so you can pass it on to your colleagues and maybe your boss to convince GitLab is the solution for you to go with. But yeah, in any case, we're really excited to kickstart this series, and please provide your feedback. Let us know how it went. Did you find the pace good? Was the topic interesting? What is it that we can bring next time to you? And yeah, would be excited to see you again. So thanks so much for spending your evening with us. Anything else, Ahmed, on your end?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Christine. Thank you, Gautam. Thank you for our attendees, our customer, partner, prospect. To be honest, this is the first time we are doing webinar in Saudi Arabia, and the attendees was like, around 100 attendees. So it's, I think it's a success for all of us. Okay, and they are stayed with us till the end of the session. A lot of people already wanted to know about GitLab platform, about DevSecOps. We are here in Saudi Arabia in Riyadh. Please reach out to me or Gautam. We are both here in Saudi Arabia for this week. So you can reach out to have in-person meeting with us. Thank you so much and have a great night. Assalamu alaikum.